Welcome to the 5th video in the Jeep Frog Bible Lesson Series. Jeep Frog, just enter every day prayerfully, fully relying on God. In this series of videos, I'm hoping to give a Bible lesson on relying on God that correlates to a different aspect of the Jeep culture. I'm Dr. Jeffrey Harris, pastor, chaplain, author, and Jeep enthusiast. I'm also the founder of the Jeep Frog Ministry. The Jeep culture has rules and organizational guidelines for the Jeep community. This is also the case with the Christian community. There are rules and codes of conduct that we follow for the betterment of the entire community. The rules in the Christian community come from the Bible, or at least they should. Like in the Jeep community, the Christian community's rules and mode of operation varies from one local gathering to another. Having a code of conduct and rules and regulations is not something that is uncommon. Everything we do in our human relationships have rules and modes of operation in which we follow. Some are written, some are not. They are simply understood, and many have been handed down from one generation to the next generation. The simple truth is that no human organization can exist for any length of time if it does not have a code of conduct. If the fast food chains did not have a code of conduct, they would be shut down pretty quickly for improper handling of food. If the nuclear power plant did not have a code of conduct, I think we would be in big trouble, just like Chernobyl, where one person didn't follow a code of conduct. Rules and guidelines are not bad. They're generally there to protect and guide in the right direction. The New Testament of the Bible gives us a great deal of teaching for the conduct for the local church and the Christian community. The Apostle Paul was a man God used to inspire much of that New Testament. Paul wrote what we call the pastoral epistles. These are inspired writings to two young men who were early church leaders. One of these young men was Timothy. So Paul, in writing to him, stated this. He said in 1 Timothy 3:15, "But if I tarry long, that thou mayest know how thou oughtest to behave thyself in the house of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and the ground of the truth." I think if there was one place that for sure there needed to be a code of conduct, it would be with the pillar and ground of the truth. Of course, this is the church that Paul was speaking about. I've heard people say that they do not go to church because there are too many rules and regulations. But when was the last time you went to a sporting event? Were there rules and regulations? Rules where you could park and where you couldn't park? Rules on where you were allowed to enter the event, where you couldn't enter the event. And there were rules and guidelines on where you could sit and where you can't sit. When was the last time you drove a car? Were there rules and regulations for driving that car? How about getting groceries? Any rules and regulations there? Did you just drive your car into the grocery store, pick up what you want, and drive out? I know I'm being facetious, but we submit ourselves to rules and regulations willingly every single day of our lives. And we do it without ever even thinking about it or giving it any thought. Try driving on the wrong side of the road sometime. See how that works out. I can guarantee you it's not going to turn out very well. The Jeep community has a code of conduct. As well, many of the Jeep events that you may go to has rules and regulations to guide that specific event. Remember, Paul said that the church was the pillar and the ground of the truth. That is the most important place in the world. So it would seem very reasonable to have a code of conduct in the church. Paul told Timothy, "I want you to know how to behave yourself as a member of the body of Christ, the church." Usually, in any organizational structure, there is a leadership structure. It is not come and do as you please. Paul wrote to the church in Corinth, a church that was not following a code of conduct that God had set forth. He stated in 1 Corinthians 14:40, "Let all things be done decently and in order." He also stated in verse number 33, "For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all the churches of the saints." In any organizational structure, there is always leadership. In the church, God designed there to be pastors, elders, deacons, deaconesses, as part of the leadership structure of the community of Christian believers. Now, different local churches do things differently, and they may call their leadership different names. But there's a structure to the leadership in any local church. Jesus said that in his church, the leadership, though, would act differently than the way that the outside world operated. In Matthew chapter number 20, and beginning in verse number 25, Jesus called unto him and said, "Ye know that the princes of the Gentiles exercise dominion over them, and they that are great exercise authority upon them. But it shall not be so among you. But whosoever will be great among you, let him be your minister. And whosoever will be the chief among you, let him be your servant. Even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister, and to give his life a ransom for many." Many leaders of the local church are called ministers, because that's what Jesus said we would be if we were working as leaders of his church. Usually people that are under leadership serve the leader. But Jesus said that his leaders would be ministers and that they would serve those under them. With this in mind, Paul also wrote to the church members. In Hebrews chapter number 13 and verse 17, he said, "Obey them that have the rule over you, and submit yourselves, for they watch for your souls, as they that must give an account, that they may do it with joy and not with grief, for that is unprofitable for you." Remember, we talked about the purpose of the church in lesson 4, being edification or to build up. You see, God's leadership structure is set up so that the lives of all who are in attendance can be built. The leaders serve the general members. The general members obey the leadership of the leaders. And every member will be able to profit from attending the gathering. Yes, there are rules and a code of conduct at local gatherings of the Christian communities, anywhere that you attend. But don't allow that to scare you and stop you from going to church. It's there so that you can profit in your spiritual life and grow in your faith toward Jesus Christ. So I encourage you, find a local church that will help you in your spiritual journey and allow you to help others. And then attend faithfully and get involved. Well, that's an end of another video. I hope it's been helpful to you. We here at Jeep Frog want to help you with your spiritual growth. If you need clarification or help with what you've just heard, drop us a line at pastorjeff.gmc@gmail.com. We'll do our best to get back with you just as soon as we can with an answer to your question. Keep an eye out for more Bible lessons in the Jeep Frog series, and be sure to like, subscribe, and share our videos with everyone. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. This is Pastor Jeff, founder of the Jeep Frog Ministry, reminding you to just enter every day prayerfully, fully relying on God.
Jeep Frog. Ribit, ribit, ribit.